feel talking about all this stuff, being this prominent public figure who's a revered athlete, like...
Less revered now.
Well, not really. Not when you kick ass. And then over time, I think a lot of people that demonized you, especially the fans, they realized you were right.
Yeah. I don't think all of them will entirely admit that. But
right. In the back of their head, they know you weren't nearly as nutty as they thought you were.
Let's not forget, Joe Rogan is not speaking to Aaron Rodgers as an objective neutral here.
I'm 48 hours in, and I consulted with a now good friend of mine, Joe Rogan, after he got COVID, and I've been doing a lot of the stuff that he recommended in his podcasts and, on the phone to me.
They bonded over being some of the biggest promoters of misinformation.
I've been able to make a ton of money playing a sport that I'm really good at, and I'm thankful for that. I have a platform. Some people want you to just shut up and throw a football, and that's fine. But I think there has to be certain voices of reason, and many people say I'm an idiot. I'm not smart. I got attacked for my intelligence levels, which is an interesting angle to attack me on. There's a lot of things you can say about me, but that's an interesting angle to go.
A few points, Aaron.
I'm not a MAGA. I've never had any affiliation with anybody associated with that movement.
You say stuff like this.
Help us out. I'm going to take my man RFK Jr.
and simultaneously endorse Robert F. Kennedy Jr. multiple times at that.
Admirer of Robert Kennedy. He's a friend of mine.
Wow. I am a fan of Bobby Kennedy, so I want people to know that. I actually look at him and I think he's one of those, I actually think I have a lot in common with him.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign is getting traction for one reason. He's speaking truth to power.
I believe that his candidacy may serve the purpose of softening Joe Biden or whoever the Democratic nominee is for the candidacy and defeat by the man who will clearly be, no matter what the courts do, the Republican nominee for president, Donald J. Trump.
Yet those in the MAGA movement align with him, propel him up, as Steve Bannon, Roger Stone, and Michael Flynn have done, and root for his success. Donald Trump won't speak ill of him. He'll speak ill of a garbage can. Either your head is in the gutter or you refuse to admit wrongdoing. I'd go with the latter. ESPN's Mina Kimes spoke on the subject and put it into words far better than I could.
It really drove home what is at stake, or what is the meaningful thing about this story that transcends sports, which is the sort of normalization of conspiracy theories. And I say that not to criticize Rodgers' character or whatever, but really just to kind of criticize the substance of what he was saying, to criticize the sources he was throwing out. I mean, the names that he was bringing up. I don't know, Alex Berenson, for example, the former journalist. So he said his name. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He's a guy who's been consistently proven wrong about vaccines and their efficacy and their danger. He has been misleading in how he has used studies. I'm sure some of the same studies that Rodgers has read. The authors of those studies have refuted him. You could ask any credible scientist, doctor, public health expert, and they would refute him. But when I was watching Rodgers and he said his name, I wasn't surprised to hear it, because the people who believe the things that I think Rodgers now believes, they always cite the same people. It really is groupthink kind of masquerading as independent thought. And it's not just on the fringes of society. I think, as evidenced by the fact, obviously, that one of our most famous athletes is now believing some of these things. But I think a lot of us have people in our lives who have gone down similar rabbit holes, who are sort of tempted by the idea of feeling like they know something that the rest of us don't, who, when they're met with skepticism or criticism, as Rodgers was, and I think this is at the heart of a lot of this, they double down. They're still having these debates while the rest of the world has moved on. And I feel like, the fact that that's not just on the fringes is worth noting, and it's worth always checking those points when they're made and not just laughing them off the way we so often do. Because, I understand that there's this inside baseball media aspects of the story that are interesting to you and others, and there's the rhetoric battle. But to me, when I was watching that, what I felt was at stake was none of that. it's this ongoing devaluation of facts and expertise, and that bothers me.
That's the crux. That's it right there. Still, Rodgers doesn't see it.
There's a lot of people that believe a lot of the things that I believe in that don't have the opportunity to do it, don't have the courage to do it, don't have the platform to do it in. And I feel like I can speak for some of those people and hold the line for some of those people, regardless of what kind of crosshairs that puts me in with certain media members. You know, they want to shut me down on being on McAfee.
It really is quite a treat to see a man be so confidently arrogant to his own actions, truly. It's not about shutting down. It's not about canceling or even dog whistling by saying, hold the line. That was idiotic. It's that he's been wrong so many times and refuses to admit wrongdoing and check himself. Rogan then goes off on big banks, big pharma, you know, the usual on this absolutely terrible show. The quote-unquote canceling of one major cable news host, though.
Because they're the same sponsors. The same people are spending the same money on the same networks. And it has an impact. If it affects your livelihood and affects your future and your ability to do this thing that you love doing, which is hosting a talk show, and you're doing it on a network that is paid for by that money, guess what? That affects you. And if you don't think it affects you, look what they did with the number one guy on TV news, Tucker Carlson. They fired him. He was the number one guy. And they're like, you're getting too crazy.
Yeah, he'd speak on it. And by the way, no, that's not it at all. In the book, Network of Lies, and a write-up via The Guardian as well, ultimately Carlson's escalating toxicity, which included an undercurrent of white supremacy and a penchant for demeaning women and minorities, led Lachlan Murdoch, the then chief executive of Fox Corp, to pull the plug via the book. More, Carlson was believed to have Trump-like hypnotic power over the GOP base. He was believed to be irreplaceable, but that impression was in large part a creation of Carlson's. In truth, Carlson had alienated so many people, instigated so many internal and external scandals, fanned so many flames of ugliness that his firing was inevitable. That's why Fox dropped Carlson. It wasn't one thing, it was everything, wrote the author.
Why did you bring up Jimmy Kimmel when that whole thing was going on?
I had said on the McAfee show before, they had talked about, forever they talked about releasing the Epstein list or whatever. And I had said that on the show, and he had got on his show and called me a tinfoil hat wearing, doofus who is talking about, I thought he had said that I'm an idiot for even thinking there's a list that's out there.
What was he saying you're a doofus for thinking?
That the list was going to get released, I guess.
Once again, for being this bright guy, he cannot and will not admit he missed the point. Kimmel joked about Rodgers' line of UFOs being a distraction from the list being released. Neither party has been proven. Why? Because it's a conspiracy theory from Rodgers, who admits he's full of many, and a comedian cracking hoo-haws with his audience. He's mad about that? I mean, come on. How thin-skinned are you?
I don't know what it was.
That doesn't make any sense. Why would anybody defend the people that apparently were on that list? Because it is a real list.
There was something
a real
about
place.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is how misinformation is constantly spread by folks like this. Rodgers then demands people have the same energy for the Jeff Epps stuff with the anti-vax stuff, which is preposterous, but it wouldn't end there, of course.
But instead of if you look at this two-party system and go, who's the lesser of the two evils? I would say, how about let's the two-party system and let's have some more options. And one of them, in my opinion, is RFK, who's phenomenal.
Oh, God, he was so close. Incredibly, there's more BS. Specifically not understanding what is going on with the suits against Donald Trump.
So Trump said he's not going to debate?
He's not debating anybody.
Why? He'd mop the floor.
He doesn't have to.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So he's like, F you, I'm not debating. And also because they keep trying him. They keep bringing him into court. There's all these cases that they keep bringing up. They just lawsuit into oblivion. It's the whole thing is
it
wild.
Just emboldens his followers, though.
Yeah, it does. It has the exact opposite effect. I mean, it's a similar sort of playbook in a lot of ways to what they did during the pandemic, where the more they attack him, the more people are like, what the f*** is true?
Yeah.
because I don't believe you guys anymore. And when you're going after him, I kind of think that you're just doing this because you don't want him to win, and that's banana republic. When you're prosecuting your political opponents, specifically because you don't want your political opponents to be able to make it to the vote, that's banana republic. That's
what we're living in.
Yeah.
All right, I'm tired. I watched it, so you don't have to. You're welcome. Hey, everyone, if there are any stories that you want to bring to our attention, whether it is the local level, collegiate level, professional level, national level, that you think would be worthy of a story and us covering, there are so many hours in a day and only so much we see. Submit them to me. Get at me on Twitter, on Instagram, and TikTok. Send me a DM, send me a tweet, what have you. We appreciate it. Hope you have a great day.
They got lower the rims. I would watch a girl coming down the lane. On another, I would watch that.
When Michael Porter Jr. made comments such as these on The Pivot,
my issue with The Pivot is they allow these guys to say things that they know is wrong, and they just are like, okay, keep going, or they'll feed them more information for them to then double down on the stupid that they had just said.
LA Sparks star Lexi Brown didn't hold back.
I know these females want to get paid more, and they're very talented, but so is a famous ping pong player. They're just as talented as the best ping pong player is just as talented as the best basketball player. That doesn't mean they're going to get paid the same because
they play ping pong.
So, I mean, there's like a lot to unpack in his like statements, identifying us as females instead of women the whole time, that we can't get treated the same. And then he then says treatment to payment, which are two completely different things. We can still be treated with respect, and they can respect our craft without us making $20 to $30 million a year. Like, those things are not, like, both of those things can happen. We cannot get paid $30 million, and we can be respected and treated well for being professional basketball players.
On MPJ's, it would be more entertaining if the rims were under 10 feet comment.
Lowering the rims comment, you already know how I feel about that. It's stupid. It doesn't benefit me personally at all because I'm still not going to dunk. Yeah. I can't dunk on a 10-foot rim. I'm definitely not going to dunk on a 9-foot rim. It's going to f up my shooting. It's going to f up everybody's shooting. And I just feel like the way he plays basketball, like, he shoots a lot of threes. I just don't. He doesn't dunk. He wants us to dunk. You dunk. Like, what are we talking about? It's a tired conversation. And I'm very annoyed with men continuing to create these spaces to discuss these things when they don't watch our games, they don't know us, they don't ask us our opinions about anything ever.
Brown responded as such.
It's what the people want to watch, you know what I mean? So as much as I understand females wanting the same treatment as men basketball players, it's a different sport. People, they're not packing out the arenas.
And like, if you don't have to watch us play, that's fine. But like, for you to just sit there and just constantly on our craft, our product, and everything without really being tuned in, like, it's not right at this point. But again, you don't have to watch anything, but y'all always want to talk about us, so might as well watch us.
And when seeing Brown go after his show, Ryan Clark would jump in with a tweet that read, "For all of y'all with the 'you don't support women's sports' or 'the pivot won't get behind black women in sports,' where were y'all then? We're going to keep working, and I'm going to keep being me. I know what it is, and the real ones do, to The Pivot." This message was tweeted above a video where he defended his fellow LSU Tiger, Angel Reese, in April of 2023. Awful announcing would add, the depth of that criticism extends to a much larger conversation about the treatment of black women in sports. They have routinely had it harder. And for a league like the W, which is predominantly black, things grow in difficulty. While that depth extends to that conversation, what's true is this: Michael Porter Jr. was simply flat out wrong for what he said. Any criticism directed towards him and his patronizing spiels is not only deserved, but earned. Critics of The Pivot have pointed to the podcast platforming MPJ to make those comments in the first place. Amid a world where women's college basketball enjoys a surge in popularity and ratings, and women's sports in general continue to boom, like the W, the comments are awful and don't reflect the current state of affairs. When Gil's Arena co-host Rashad McCants, many know him from not only his time in the NBA, but more so when he was a star at the University of North Carolina. He's on this show as well as Josiah Anderson. It is a phenomenal product. So when he says, what is the problem and what is the solution? Here was Lexi Brown's answer. Pay attention.
Everyone says the problem is the product. That's not the problem. There's great basketball being played throughout the entire W. Then we're either getting compared to NBA, which everyone complains about how NBA is being played right now. So we either get compared to that, or we get compared to the 3 most marketed women's college basketball games of the entire women's college basketball season. So we're stuck in the middle, just getting it from both sides. If we were out there playing bad basketball, like, I would understand, but like that's not the case. So marketing, promotion, our equity in our media deals, all that, it's a very layered issue.
McCants would then follow up with a question of, well, why aren't we seeing more 50 burgers, 60 burgers, 70 burgers, like what Luka did previously? Once again, Brown would respond.
Because our league is so small and so talented, like those outbursts are hard because you have
a lot of good players.
Players on your team.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah, you'll get maybe a 50 ball here, a 40 ball there, but it's hard. And we actually be D'ing up. Like, right. I tell y'all that all the time. Like, maybe we'll play less defense to like up the entertainment value, which I completely understand. But like, the people watching got to understand when that happens, like, we're getting yelled at by our coaches and all these things. So it's like, it's a cycle, and I think we're getting there. You know, we don't take as many threes as the NBA does yet. I think we're heading in that direction. I think this draft class and next year's draft class, I think they're going to make a big effort to keep these players in the league, to keep the eyes on the league. But like, that has nothing to do with us.
So once again, I leave it all up to you. How can they improve what is already a fantastic league? Is it marketing? Is it trying to get the biggest names out in front? Is it having coaches not be as strict and allow those who could potentially put up 40, 50, go do it, and go do it more consistently? Would that grow the game? What I'm asking for is this: no misogyny, no racism, and constructive conversations to be had in the comments. There is a story surfacing that is leaving many with mixed emotions. Matt Barnes, former NBA player from 2004 to 2017 and current host of All the Smoke with Steven Jackson, could potentially be the victim of deceitful framing of a tweet on social media, or just in the wrong. In this video, via stop motion sport, Barnes is seen yelling in the direction of play at his son's high school game in California. The second piece of video shows Barnes with his hand on a student broadcaster's shoulder, who appears to be on the phone. Many in the crowd start standing and pointing at Barnes, waving goodbye at him. Here is what we know thus far.
Working. Barnes hit a bit of a flop. There's no whistle. Instead, Perry gets fouled. Wow, this team is roaring after that one. Presby crowd didn't really like that one. Barnes had some choice words for the ref after the no call on the flop. And that's a technical. Yeah, I mean, and I think, well, so there's a technical on Barnes, but he also said he gave one to Fisher, maybe. I'm not sure. Wow. But, and then, oh, wow. Well, Matt Barnes now is out onto the floor, or not on the floor, he's right on the side of the floor, just screaming urine expletive. Oh my God. Jake, I have never seen I've never seen anything like this right now. I mean, that's ridiculous. He's out onto the floor right now, and just no one's doing anything about it. I get he's an NBA player, but I mean, at a certain point, like, well, what? I mean, I don't don't think that's, yeah.
Jake Lancer and his co-host said this on the broadcast.
All right, we're back. Matt Barnes kind of came up and just put his hands on me, actually. So, I mean, I'm all good, but it's kind of, I don't know. This crowd is just, this is almost insane.
Barnes is then seen talking to what is presumed to be officials of one of the competing teams on the Harvard-Westlake broadcast. There would be more video that has gone viral on the social medium Twitter of Barnes appearing to have a conversation with Lancer. After the game, Jack Pollen, a freelance prep writer in the state of California, he would speak with Lancer, who said this guy was on the court mid-game multiple times, screaming ridiculous stuff at the refs and everyone, including myself. Was looking at him, we made eye contact, and that was enough for him to come up to me and grip my shoulder with his hand. He said, "What do you think you're looking at?" And I said, "You're screaming your A term for a private part to the refs mid-game while I'm trying to announce. Don't touch me." And then he said, "I'll slap the blank out of you." Lancer would even write on Twitter after all of this happened, "Just got my hands put on at a high school basketball game. Not okay." Eric Sonheimer of the LA Times would put in his write-up that was given amplification, let's say, by none other than the Ringer's Bill Simmons. It got weird in the third quarter when the son of former NBA player Matt Barnes, Carter Barnes, picked up a technical foul. Then his dad started engaging student announcer Jake Lancer during the school's live stream broadcast by putting his hands on Lancer to get his attention, briefly delaying the game. Barnes, as we know, never one to necessarily back down, has fired off some shots of his own on Twitter. Here they are. When Jessica Oliva wrote, "What you all are failing to report is Barnes going up to our broadcaster, a high school senior, grabbing his shoulder while questioning what he's saying on the live stream after he calls the ref a B multiple times because his son got a technical foul." Barnes would fire back, "Shut your blank up. I was talking to the ref, not you or that kid that decided to say some slick blank. Don't let that privileged Harvard-Westlake blank go to your head. IDGAF who your son is." Jason Anderson of the SAC B was also in the former NBA player's sights. After Anderson's column went live, Barnes tweeted at him, "You weak a-holes are always trying to tell one side of the story." "Called you to hear your side of the story," Anderson replied. "We just wrote what's already been widely reported and what's on video. Nothing personal. You know how to reach me if you want to talk. You reach out after the fact. F you," Barnes jab. Anderson didn't back down. "One of my colleagues has been trying to reach you the past few days, and I've reached out as well. Again, we will tell your side of the story if you tell us your side of the story. You, the person who wrote the story, reached out this morning, and I answered, don't play with me. The damage is done. The headline is out there. If you really cared about the whole story, you would have called me like you did this morning," wrote Barnes. "My hometown owes at least that much. You know, I was just inducted into the Sacramento Sports Hall of Fame on Sunday. And on Tuesday, this is the next headline my hometown sees about me. That's blanked up. You knew exactly what you were doing." And then he puts the writer's handle in there. "But you wanted the whole story after the facts and headlines." Harvard-Westlake would tweet afterwards, "Harvard-Westlake is proud of Jake Lancer and the poise he showed on Friday night under unusual circumstances. Jake's calm demeanor and professional focus are unparalleled in high school journalism, and we are honored he is our lead commentator on HWTV." From Deadspin, Barnes' son plays for Crespi, who is led by former Knicks coach Derek Fisher. Crespi lost to Harvard-Westlake 72-54, who won their 5th straight Mission League title. If there's any story that we missed or any story that you would like to submit, get at me. I will throw up the graphic here. Get at me on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. Send me a message. Send me a DM. And again, there are only so many hours in a day. There could be stuff that we missed or even on the local level that you want us to cover. Get at us. Submit it to us. We'll take a look. Appreciate you watching. Have a good day.